Hey, welcome to another episode of the InNOLEvation Mindset podcast, powered by the Moran College of Entrepreneurship. I am Mark McNees, your host. And in studio today, we have a special guest who just spoke at 5 Under 30. That's 5 entrepreneurs that started a company before they were 30 years old. And Gabriel Curtis has been nice enough to come in as a guest today. And he is the founder and the CEO of Insight Studio Productions. So Gabriel, thank you for coming in and tell us just a little bit about your company.
Yeah. So thank you so much for having me here today. Super excited to be back at Florida State. I started the company in 2021. We are a media production company. Started off primarily video production. And as time has gone on, we've tapped more and more into marketing and helping people tell their story, connect with their audience in a very impactful way through strategy and then just great storytelling.
Nice. That's awesome. Where are you guys located?
So we are located down in Central Florida, Orlando area.
Okay, very good. And is that where you're originally from? Is that why you picked that spot?
Yeah, so a little bit of that, 100% being around family and connections and whatnot. But also, as you know, here in the Tallahassee airport doesn't really get you where you need to go sometimes. So being somewhere central, we had a lot of clients up in Tallahassee where we started the company. But we were also getting inquiries from Miami, and we're like, can we be somewhere where we can go up and down Florida a little bit easier and get from state to state a little easier as well?
Okay, and Orlando was a good choice.
Yeah. It's
All
great.
right. Very cool. I want to get to your company and talk about go a little bit deeper dive and everything, but I really love to hear about entrepreneurs' origin stories. I love to hear how they were raised and who their influencers were and like what was the journey like, just being a kid in school and then eventually wanting to start a company. Can you tell us a little bit about your upbringing and your influences?
Yeah, most definitely. So I am the son of 2 immigrant parents. So my father's from the Bahamas.
Okay.
And then my mom is from Zimbabwe.
Okay.
And, we grew up in Orlando, myself and my 2 brothers. And, with immigrant parents, the mindset is always, this is an opportunity. And they instilled in us hard work, dedication, which you probably hear a ton, but we were able to push ourselves in academics as well as athletics. What actually brought me to Florida State was a cross-country and track and field scholarship, which was pretty cool. But, we just got to see throughout the years what hard work and dedication can get you. I started off as a golfer, and we would be dropped off at the golf course, my older brother and I, and we would be playing out there for hours and working on our craft and just seeing that hard work pay off. That relationship between work and delayed gratification, that was instilled very early on. And I was able to learn that, okay, this was hard, this was difficult, but this was the benefit and this was the reward. And it's an addicting feeling. At a certain point with golf, it stops being what you put in. This is exactly what you get out. And that got pretty frustrating. And that's around the time I found running and cross country. And that was a lot more linear as far as the more you're running, the more miles, the more training, the better you get. And the progress is a lot more linear. And I was, sold and addicted to that progress. So that's really where a lot of my, I would say, work ethic came from was through athletics. And I know it's similar for a lot of entrepreneurs. But yeah, it was pretty cool.
All right. Did anybody model entrepreneurship for you in your family or family friends?
Yeah. So my dad, he had his regular job, but somewhere I think when we were younger, it must have been elementary school or so, he started a vacation rental property business down in the Exumas in the Bahamas. And he built up some beach cottages and started running them as short-term rentals. So I got to see that. I didn't understand it. Definitely didn't understand it at the time as a young kid, but I got to see that and see that it was possible.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Did you just do cross country, or were there other disciplines in track and field that you did?
So cross country and track. So not every track athlete is a cross country runner, but every cross country runner also does track and field. So in track and field, I was the 5,000 meter runner and a 10,000 meter runner. And while I was here, I actually set the national record for the Bahamas, which was still standing.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's pretty cool.
So that is pretty cool. Are you still running or doing any athletics? I mean, you look fit. So what's
my secret?
What's your secret? What are you doing?
I don't run as much as I used to. I realized what I really loved about running was the competition.
Okay.
I loved training hard so that when I towed that line, I was competitive. So now I've started to learn more and more ways. I had to learn that about myself. I'm like, why is my motivation not?
Yeah.
So finding different outlets in that regard have been great. But I met my wife here running cross country as well. So once or twice a year, we sign up for a trail race. I think last year we were out in Seattle, and that always motivates me to get back in shape, or else it's going to be suffering.
All right. All right. Sounds cool.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Let's jump into your company, or actually, I want to jump into your career a little bit.
Yeah.
Did you graduate or start your company while you were at FSU, or did you graduate and go work for somebody first? How did that all unfold?
Yeah, so up to this point, I've never had a W-2.
Okay.
I started my company while I was still in school. I think the idea came my sophomore year of college. Like the concept was pretty set in stone, and then I actually launched in 2021, my junior year.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, there's still time for you.
I know, right?
I didn't get my first W-2 until I was 47.
No way.
Yeah.
No way.
This is my first job that I've ever had that I wasn't born into or started myself. And I had to learn how to be an employee.
Right. But I know you're an entrepreneur, right? You're doing things.
Yeah, I'm doing stuff. Not as much as I would probably do on my own. I've had to learn to kind of like stay in my lane a little bit. So
there you go.
No, it was interesting when I first started at FSU. Every company that I'd ever been in, I knew everybody. The largest company I ever ran was about 100 people, and I knew all 100 of them. And I was in charge of keeping the lights on and the pay. And like when I got to FSU, I'm like, well, I don't have to worry about the light bill. Nobody at Westcott cares what I think, like I don't have to pay anybody. Like it's just a different, like I got a job to do that I'm being paid to do. So it's kind of definitely a different, it took me a little bit of an adjustment though to become a W-2, not only getting a state worker. I was like, I never dreamed I'd be a state worker, but it's been good. It's been rewarding, and FSU's been really, they've allowed me to do a lot of creative things like this podcast and stuff like that. They've been very supportive. And I'm really appreciative of it. So you went right into starting your company. You were a student when you started it.
Student athlete, yeah.
Student athlete too. So tell us about kind of like your first clients, like what were you doing? And then can you tell us like when you started to think, you know what, this can actually be my thing. This could be, I can make a living doing this.
Right. Yeah, I'll say, you witness, sometimes you see other people doing something and that's a motivation for you. You're like, whoa, that's cool. They're making money off of this. They're growing and whatnot. And I've always been the kid that it just feels like they can do that. You're watching a sport, and I can't sit down and watch a sport before I'm outside playing that, and doing it. So I think when I started this business, I had witnessed a couple people doing something similar, and now I realize it was a little bit different than what I do, but I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool that they're able to do that. When I started the company, it was when I was a student athlete.
Yeah.
Right. So I was balancing 6 a.m. practice and a full class load. And what kept happening was I would come home. I would have these ideas of what I wanted to do today, work on my website, work on my portfolio, reach out to these people that could be potential clients. And what would happen is I'd take a shower, I would eat breakfast, I would walk in the room, look at the bed, pass out for a couple hours.
Yeah.
So I knew the mindset that I needed to shift was I need to be thinking about this every single day when I wake up, and I need to adjust my environment to do so. So early on with the business, I sold my bed. I got rid of my bed. I got rid of most of my personal belongings, sent them back down to Orlando.
Okay.
And turned my apartment into a studio and a editing bay. And it was just everything you could want video production. And I had so much equipment at a certain point. That's all that I could have in there, if that makes sense. So what happened was I would come home now from these practices and class and feel like I just need to lay down, and there'd be nothing to lay down on. And I really just made the choice that I wanted to make as easy as possible, which is go get some caffeine and let's get some work done.
Yeah.
And made the choice I didn't want to make as hard as possible, which was pull the inflatable out, blow that up, put the sheets on, and take a nap. So the mindset and the fire for what I did honestly led to the first client that we had, where we went to, actually was a home show. I don't know if they still do this, at the Civic Center. And, you know, all your different home services, flooring companies, screen enclosure companies, yada, yada, yada. And I went there and I was handing out business cards that I just got printed out. I'm like, I want to make sure that I meet people. I want to take their business cards. Anybody that showed any sort of interest in what I was saying, I kind of made a note, and I was like, okay, this is somebody that, you know, I should reach out to potentially.
Right.
And, you know, I made those calls. I got a lot of, we're not really interested, and whatever the case is, but surprisingly a good bit were like, let's meet, let's talk.
Nice.
And that's how I got my first client was, and they're still in town today. They've been in town forever, NRG Industries. I reached out to them. I got to sit down with the CEO, talk to him about his business, really relate to him about being a I mean, I'm saying relate. I was young. He had been in the industry for like 45 years or something. But I was truly inspired by his story. And that's the way I still am to this day. Anyone I talk to that is going off the beaten path and doing something, and he could tell. And I told him a lot about myself. I probably overshared, you know, about who I was and, you know, why I was in Tallahassee and yada, yada, yada. But what it did was build trust. I know now there's a lot of better ways to go about building trust in a business scenario, but he trusted me and who I was. And he was like, I'll bet on you. Let's get a video done for NRG Industries. My policy was always, and still to this day, anybody that works with us, if you paid us $1,000, we're going to make you a $2,000 video.
Okay.
You know? And you can keep doing that $10,000, $20,000 video.
Right.
Until you decide to stop, until you decide, you know, this is about where I want to be. But we haven't reached it yet. And I want to continue to get to that point of exceeding expectations. But we exceeded their expectations. I remember I got a call from his office manager in class. I pulled my classic, can I use the bathroom, please? And I took the client call, which is something I had to do quite a bit while I was at FSU.
Yeah.
And they were like, hey, the commercial you made for us was great. We're getting great feedback. We're going to put it on local television stations. And we just need this information from you and make sure the specs are correct. And, you know, I hung up the phone, went back into class, and I was like, whoa, like, we're having our first television commercial launch.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Soon. So it was a pretty cool moment. And it just helped me realize, like, there's not this veil that we kind of put up in our heads, you know. If any other production company in the area was like, we do television commercials, it would have been like, how? Like, how do you get from this point to that point? But I already had that little token of confidence that I could use going forward.
Nice. Have you, I was thinking about you getting rid of the bed and changing your environment for success and everything. Have you ever heard of Jonathan Haidt and Chip Heath, their elephant, rider, and path analogy?
I haven't.
So if I could share.
Yeah, I love
it. It like radically changed how I viewed like change and how to make change. And kind of their theory of change is that our emotions are this 2-ton elephant.
Got it.
And the rider is our intellect. And in order to get to get to the destination that we want to get to, there has to be a path.
Right.
And the way the analogy breaks down is if like you're emotionally afraid, there's nothing the rider can do to move a 2-ton elephant. The elephant's not going to go anywhere that the elephant doesn't want to go. So, or if the elephant is good and the intellect is good, but there's just no path to get there, you're not going to make it that way either.
Right.
And once I kind of like learned this kind of theory of change, like whenever like I'm up against something, like if I'm not accomplishing a goal, I like go back to that. And I'm like, all right, is this an elephant issue? Is like, if I'm trying to do it on a team, is the team afraid? Like, is there something like unknown that we need to tame that elephant or make that elephant? Or is it an intellectual thing? They just don't agree. Or is there just no path to do it? Like I, as a leader, I haven't said, hey, here's the path to making to the success. And that's been so helpful for me.
I love that. Yeah.
Just that really simple analogy and everything. But I hear a lot, I'm sure you heard a lot, like, like we just need to educate people. And, which, yeah, of course we have to educate people, but we also need to like make people feel safe and address their legitimate emotional hesitancies too, because
100%.
Because it doesn't matter if it's like, it's like losing weight, or, we're talking about delayed gratification and everything. Elephant doesn't like any of those things. Right. So the elephant wants it now.
No, and in the panel yesterday, I was telling the students, with social media, right, and how it's such a dopamine depleting activity, the doom scrolling and what we do. And I'm a young guy, this is our generation that's kind of feeling the effects of it. And it's easy for you to look at yourself as, I'm not motivated, I can't get out of bed, and it's the same thing as me getting rid of the bed, but people don't realize how that is killing their creativity, it's killing their motivation. And then they're just looking at themselves as like, I'm not a motivated person. They don't realize that successful people put these systems in place to get them to that level, to get them in the right mindset on a consistent basis. And then they're so in tune with their body. Like, I went through a phase where being on these apps, I mean, it's part of my career, but being on these apps and these social media apps was draining me. Because I know the level of motivation I typically have, I noticed a decline, and I was like, what in the world is, I knew it wasn't me, where I think a lot of people don't think it's not them. They're like, I'm just not as motivated as you, man. Like, that's right. I was like, no, something's horribly wrong. Like, I'm not getting anything done. I can't stay focused on a task for a long amount of time. And I had to go through a deep dive of why that was and learn about myself and my body and redirect, you know what I'm saying? And strategically. So I think a lot of successful people set themselves up for success, and people don't realize that always. And they, and I think that kind of plays into your analogy.
Yeah. 100%. I don't think most people realize that the level of like care for environment and everything that entrepreneurs do in order to make themselves successful.
Right.
Like I take it a whole, like, for me, I try to stay fit and I work hard at it, but one of my elephant's always hungry. And I've had to learn that I can't have like ice cream in the house, because if there's ice cream in the house, I'm going to come home, I'm going to be tired.
Right.
And I'm going to think that ice cream is going to make me feel good, and it will make me feel good. And then I'll eat the whole thing. Then I'll feel terrible and stuff. So like I love ice cream, but ice cream doesn't come in my house, because if it comes in the house, it's going to be in my mouth. Right. There's no motto. So like, I totally get your bed thing. And like, that's something that I would do, but I think a lot of people, like, they're not willing to take that step that that is going to be uncomfortable, but is going to make them successful.
Right.
Because you could rationalize all day why you need a bed. Right. But if you identified that as something like this is a barrier of me becoming successful, like that you removed it from your environment, right? You created a better path.
Right.
So
I mean, there wasn't a day I woke up not thinking about my business.
Yeah.
From then until now.
Yeah.
It's almost like a trained thing at this point. And it was invaluable to the progress. No, you didn't have to do that. I could have, but like you said, you just made it way easier on yourself. To make the right decision.
By taking the decision away.
The decision away.
Yeah, but I tell my entrepreneurs and everything, it's like when you're making your plan, you're 100% in control.
Right.
But after you make your plan, you give the control over to the plan and you stick to the plan.
Yeah.
And if you can't achieve the plan, you need to figure out what is holding you back from that. And it's tough. It's a mindset issue and trying to get your mind right.
Totally.
You got your first client. They were really happy with the commercial. So take me through the scaling of your business and like where did you go from there? And post-graduation and you moved down to Orlando. Like, tell me a little bit about scaling your business.
Yeah. So while we were here, like I said, we started off with little, went above and beyond with every client that we got because I saw it as a chance to have something in the portfolio that, could be a game changer. If I have something that, whether they paid the $1,000, if I have a $5,000 video to show when I sit down with another business owner, that's way more valuable to me. I was able to build the business without ever incurring any debt through that strategy. We had a little, we used it and continued to expand. We got the equipment when we needed the equipment. Everything we use, we knew exactly how to use it. And we're very great at using what we had. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
When and I was networking a good bit, and this was a really cool part of this. I would always sit back. There was a few professors that were very encouraging and excited for what I was doing behind the scenes. And they encouraged me, but they were also on the lookout for opportunities, whether they were small or big. And we had gotten an opportunity to film something, I think, for the College of Engineering, something small, like a little event that they had going on.
Yeah.
But we pulled up with like everything. Like it was a production and it was impressive. The story was great. And they didn't even know there was a story there, but the way we interviewed people, the way that we directed, the shots that we got were a lot more impactful than they thought that little event video was going to be. And it got the marketing director's attention over at the College of Engineering. Which was pretty cool. We sat down, had a meeting. She's like, we want this cinematic, beautiful, branded video that tells a story of young. And really what happened was she gave us her target demographic, and this is the message that we want to send to them. They said it's going to be played in movie theaters in North Florida. We want to get young people engaged with the College of Engineering and envision themselves as engineers. So with that little deal, it turned into a much bigger project. The project was a little bit bigger than anything that we had ever done, but we were like, yes, we can do it. Let's make it happen. And we filmed this huge commercial for them that had an amazing premiere here in Tallahassee.
Oh, fun.
And it was, some of the work I was most proud of, and I still am just so proud of it because of the story. The marketing director of the College of Engineering does not know this, but I was a College of Engineering student when I first came to Florida State and ended up switching to digital media production. So it was a crazy full circle moment to be like a leap of faith where I was really feeling like I came here to be an engineer, and it felt like I was letting go of an identity that, you kind of have when you're 14 and decide that you want to be an engineer and you don't really know what that means.
Right.
But to now have them as a client and we still work with them on a consistent basis, it's just insane. Full circle, wink from God, whatever you want to call it, that they're clients of ours. So as we've gotten bigger and bigger clients, it's the same rinse and repeat of great portfolio, going to the next client, letting them know these are things that we can do for them. And then what really has helped us scale, bring on employees, and grow the business has been finding a model that fulfills our passion for storytelling and creating, but also serves the client in a long-term way.
Mm-hmm.
So when we started, it was primarily just branding videos, and we would come in with the crew and the lighting and this and that and shoot them a big branding video and then hand it off to them, which worked really great for organizations with marketing teams and directors, and they just needed a really great video.
Yeah.
But for a lot of the small businesses and medium-sized businesses and organizations that we serve now, that didn't work well because we would hand them the video and they would have no clue what to do with it.
Right.
And they would post it on, one channel, not get what they wanted out of it, and then be like, video doesn't work. And that didn't sit right with me ever. And I was like, we need to create a package that serves them long term. We need to create something where, because we would have so many great ideas for them. Okay, this is how you can roll this out. This is how you can maximize the content that we created from this. Or these are all these other little projects that we want to do with you. And there was no way for us to kind of do that. So once we found a way to build a product that felt right with us, that felt unique, not a lot of people are doing what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And even if there's not enough. There's definitely not enough people doing what we do. So someone asked me yesterday, do you guys have, who's your competition? And I'm like, I can't even think about it like that because there's more than enough work, for people doing what we do if it's quality and it actually gets your clients results. So scaling really came from finding that service that works for businesses long term, that gives us that predictable revenue, that gives me the confidence to bring more and more people on, sell it because I know it's going to work for our clients. And they can tell, when I'm sitting across from them, I'm like, this is what your business needs. They know I'm serious about it.
Nice. When you think about your business and through the growth phase of your business, all businesses face challenges and things like that. Does a particular challenge come to mind that you faced, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, I mean, kind of what I just spoke on, which is repeatable revenue. And I don't want to get ahead of myself with some of the questions, but that was a huge, that was a piece of information that I wish I kind of understood a little bit better right at the beginning, which is, it doesn't matter if you go and sign a $50,000 contract, or not, let me not say contract, but you get a project that is going to pay you something like $50,000.
Yeah.
You still might not have the confidence to hire an employee for $35,000, $40,000 a year.
Right.
Because you're like, I don't know when the next one's coming in. I don't know if that, which is crazy, but if you can find a way to, even if it's smaller amounts of money, know I can rely on this every month. It gives you the confidence to bring people on, to better your product, to better your service, and to grow to the next level. So finding that service that made the most sense was a huge challenge, because I never wanted to set, like, even when I was talking to some of my current clients about, hey, we're thinking about going into the social media space as well as the big branding videos, they were like looking at me like those were two completely separate things. They're like, so you want to do the little like TikTok videos and this and that and the other, and like, that's not even what you guys are about. That's not what you guys do. You guys do the big productions and yada, yada, yada. And so it took a while for me to like let go of that and help them realize our real asset to them is our storytelling and the connection that we can give you with your audience, the way that we can communicate your brand. You have all of these amazing services, amazing products, such a passion for what you do, and nobody knows about it. They don't know you're funny. They don't know that you're intellectual. They don't know.
Right.
They can't just pick this up from, your boilerplate website.
Right.
So we have the ability to communicate that in many different ways, and then helping them understand the strategy behind why we roll out content that way that we do, and where your branding video even fits into your marketing strategy. So that process, most of entrepreneurship, in my opinion, is you getting out of your own way.
Yeah.
You know, that's something I've realized is, you know, I could have been way farther if I kind of wasn't holding myself back. And the more and more that you get out of your own way and let go of those fears is where you move forward. But that was a huge barrier that we had to kind of overcome.
Interesting. Cool. Thanks for sharing that. So as you know, the podcast is called the InNOLEvation Mindset.
Right.
And I have a series of books called the CEO Mindset Reset. And we like to talk about mindset a lot on this program, mostly from like my experiences being a 5-time founder, that sometimes you lose the why of what you're doing. And I call it the pile of dirt.
Mm-hmm.
The imagery is there's a big pile of dirt and you're like moving that dirt and you forget why you're moving that dirt, and it just becomes a chore, like, and it becomes meaningless, like just shovel after shovel moving this dirt. And then somebody comes in and reminds you that you're clearing the road. An ambulance can take your son to get a heart transplant at the hospital.
Right.
And that changes the mindset. It's no longer a pile of dirt. You're saving your son's life, you know? And so that's kind of how I look at mindset. And I think so often founders are so busy and they get so in the weeds that they forget the original reason that they're moving the dirt, right? So for you, how do you keep your head right? How do you keep your mindset right? How do you keep motivated and motivating your team?
Yeah, I mean, it's so important. I know I said this already, but to kind of like unplug a little bit, you know, and have those moments of quiet where the emails aren't going off, the phone isn't going off. I know a lot of successful people have their quote unquote power hour in the mornings where they're not expecting to get any calls or messages, and there's a moment of stillness that a lot of inspiration and clarity comes from. I always say, like, if you wake up to 3-4 texts, missed calls, emails, it's like you just accept it. Yeah, you just accepted that the day is going to happen to you. Yeah. You know, you're not going to happen to the, you know. So it's as simple as, you know, you get up a little bit earlier and you say, when this happens today, this is how I'm going to respond, as opposed to getting up and it's happening and you just have the knee-jerk response and the reaction. So first and foremost, I'd say that. I haven't always been the best about it, but when I realize, you know, I'm getting into the weeds, like you said, that's where I'm like, okay, I need to have that quietness and that stillness. So unplugging is a huge aspect of it, and finding those windows of time early in the day is typically the best, because, you know, you don't know what's going to happen later in the day. So get ahead of it.
No, I love that. And I didn't know that the power hour that's the first time I've heard that, but I actually do that. Yeah. Like, I get up an hour before I need to do anything. Yeah. And I just have a cup of coffee and I just chill. Yeah. Like, I usually do some mindset, like gratitude exercises and stuff like that. And, I always make my bed first, because that's the only thing that I can fully control in the day. Right. Is like, I can make that bed, and I make that bed, and I go down and I relax for an hour. I find if I'm like rushing in the morning, because I could get up an hour later and like drink a cup of coffee on the way to work or something like that. Right. But I'm not going to be at my best if I do that. 100%. And I've just learned that about myself. So it's interesting that there's actually a name for it.
Yeah. And I heard that as the same way. I was like, oh yeah, I have that. That's good. Oh,
that's awesome. It's super important, you know? And I think for a lot of times it's like, well, especially when you're younger, it's like, why would I get up before I need to get up? You know? And now, like, it's like, I cherish that time. Like it's and a lot of my best thinking happens during that time.
Most definitely.
As well. So that's cool.
Yeah.
I like to finish every podcast by asking my guest a question. And the question is, if you could go back, and you started your company in 2017, right?
2021.
Oh, 2021.
Yeah.
2021. So if you could go back to 2021 before you started your company, and you were allowed to tell yourself one thing that you think would make a difference, what would you tell yourself?
Kind of what I said earlier in the podcast, which is I was trying to figure out when I first started how to land big contract after big contract. It was a constant revolving door. I wasted a ton of time in onboarding this client, onboarding this, over and over and over again. And the repeatable, predictable revenue was the thing that was going to allow me to hire. And I was like busting my brain trying to figure out, do I need to take out a loan? Am I going to have to do this to hire someone? I might have to do that to hire somebody. If I had just known, figure out a model to where you have predictable revenue, like what's going to come in 2, 3. I mean, you can't predict years in advance, but you just need 3 months, at least, or 6 months, whatever you feel comfortable with. You need to know how much you're going to baseline make 3 months out.
Yeah.
That's going to allow you to have the confidence to hire on, build your team. And then now you can hone in on the strategy. Now you can hone in on what you're passionate about and build it and scale it the way that you want. But if it's just constantly you running around with your hair on fire and you never feel confident, and you're always like, dang, how do these people have the confidence to have a payroll that's this massive? It's because they've figured out the marketing that they need to do to get those leads on a consistent basis, or they've figured out a retainer package to get that revenue on a consistent basis. So I would say you have to kind of change your mindset a little bit to get to the next level, and I think that would help me a lot.
Cool. Gabriel, I really appreciate you taking the time to come in. Best of luck to your business, and hopefully, keep growing and learning and all that good stuff. I appreciate you taking the time coming in today.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the InNOLEvation Mindset podcast, powered by the Moran College of Entrepreneurship. Hey, if you like this episode, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss another amazing episode. We will catch you next time.